The views and opinions on this program do not necessarily express the views and opinions of the management of 58 WCHS or West Virginia Radio Corporation.
Hey, good Friday morning. Yes, it's Friday. You made it. It's the end of the week, and the weekend is upon us. Anyway, this is Mike Agnello on Ask the Expert. Today, Dr. Jeannie K. Beasley, Sleep and TMJ Treatment Center. And it is Friday. It's time for Dr. Jeannie K. Beasley. And, of course, your calls at 304-345-5858 at WCHS. Well, good morning, Dr. Beasley.
Good morning, and how are you?
It's great. I'm encouraged, excited, and it's Friday. So it's hard not to enjoy. And now I just hear from our weather forecast, 60 degrees tomorrow, so all is well.
Yes, I can put my husband to work. We have some outside chores to catch up on, so it'll be a good day.
Honey-do jobs. Yes, we know all about those. Dr. Jeannie K. Beasley, of course, we always talk about sleep disorders and TMJ and all these other issues, but today you brought some reinforcements, a friend of yours, and also someone that also is a surgeon that, of course, you had to use his services. I'm talking about Dr. Michael Beasley. Good morning, Dr. Beasley.
Good morning.
And would you like to? How did you guys meet, Dr. Beasley?
Well, last year in the fall, I started having some difficulty with my neck. So when we did MRI, my thyroid was extremely enlarged, and that's how I met Dr. Beasley, and he actually removed my thyroid, and I wanted to talk about that today because, you know, he's a great surgeon. He really helped me out, and I just wanted to share how that affected sleep for me personally.
Well, you know, you have talked about this before on previous programs. And now here's, as they say, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, so you brought your surgeon. Dr. Beasley, talk about your practice. I know it's Eye and Ear Clinic Physicians Incorporated.
Correct. Yeah, we the corporation's been around for many decades. So there is the ophthalmology side and the ear, nose, and throat group. We practice full range of otolaryngology, ear, nose, and throat surgery, and head and neck. Anything from tubes and tonsils in children's, and in both the medical and surgical management, as well as head and neck cancers and thyroid disease.
Dr. Beasley, I honestly, before I met Dr. Jeannie K. Beasley, I have to admit, I've learned, every program I've learned, first of all, how many people have TMJ or sleep disorders, which was almost shocked me, you know, nationwide, especially in our area. But the thyroid being an issue for sleep, I would have never, ever put those two together.
Yeah, it really is an integral part of sleep disturbance. There's several ways that can disturb your sleep, both compressive, like Dr. Bailey's, where you can actually have compression and obstruction of the airway, and just the thyroid function. If it's over or under functioning, underactive, then it will affect your sleep as well.
You know, we were sharing right before the broadcast, my mother had that thyroid surgery with the scar on the neck from, years and years and years ago. In fact, I won't say my age, but I was about 6 years old when it happened. I do remember that, my mom coming home with this scar, and I remember, and by the way, Dr. Jeannie K. Beasley's scar is so minimal. It is so compared to what used to be. And I'll never forget my mom coming home, and I cried. I thought, who did that to my mommy, you know? But things have certainly progressed, and her scar is so minimal, it's almost hard to notice. But again, what kind of brought you into, do you think about sleep disorders as far as when you're treating patients?
Sure, that's a large part of what we do. Both in children and adults. So the etiology is a little different in the two subsets of patients. But that's a high level of referrals for us. For children, it's usually their tonsils and adenoids obstructing their airway. Less now because we are seeing childhood obesity. But in adults, a large part of sleep apnea is obesity for obstructive sleep apnea, or it can be metabolic resulting from the thyroid.
Dr. Beasley, when did you realize that you were having some issues. I mean, you're hypersensitive, of course, to sleep disorders, that being so much of what you deal with in your practice. What started happening that kind of drew your attention to it? And were you having sleep issues?
I was having insomnia. I was up all night long.
Boy.
And I treat sleep disorders, and I was like, geez, what's driving force? Now, I knew my thyroid was enlarged, but some people have a thyroid that comes out that you visibly see it. Mine was more internal, so you didn't really see it a lot. So, after we did the MRI and saw how large it was, and then Dr. Beasley says, boy, this is really affecting you. After it came out, my sleep pattern dramatically changed, and I'm on the right hormone balance. Now, one thing that's important, and you should probably address this more than me, Dr. Beasley, is when you are sleep deprived, it changes the hormones in your thyroid, correct?
Absolutely. It's somewhat, it goes both ways. What we'll see is about 3 to 5% even of people with obstructive sleep apnea, and they go for a sleep study, will find out that, in fact, it's actually affected by their thyroid. And it not only does the sleep disturbance bother your thyroid, your entire pituitary axis, which affects your thyroid, but also if your thyroid's underactive, it will disrupt your sleep. So it's a vicious cycle.
And when it's underactive, you're tired. So not only was I sleep deprived and insomnia, it's a vicious cycle. It was affecting my thyroid hormones, which with the thyroid hormones being down, it made me tired.
Sure. And then if someone's tired and they sleep, they feel like sleeping during the day, or they're just lethargic during the day, then it disrupts their entire sleep pattern. So it is a vicious cycle.
304-345-5858, 304-345-5858 if you'd like to talk to Dr. Beasley or Dr. Bailey, and we're going to be here for a while. But sleep disorders, if you haven't heard about it, by the way, it's made national news over and over and over again about that. We are pretty much a sleep-deprived nation. This is Mike Agnello on Ask the Expert. We'll be back on WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
Aren't you glad you have the right to disagree? Join the debate now.
Well, I think they have probably the best news source.
Tell it like it is.
On the voice of Charleston, 58 WCHS.
Need to sell your car or truck at a fair price and go home with a check in your pocket today? This is Larry Dawson of Larry Dawson's Auto Sales and Nitro. We buy vehicles every day. We've been doing it for years. Why go through the hassle of classified ads and dealing with complete strangers? Just give us a call. We'll take a close look at your car and offer you a fair price. Ask any of our former customers and they will explain the Larry Dawson's difference. Larry Dawson's Auto Sales and Nitro, where we buy cars. Stop by today or visit us online at larrydawsons.com.
At Quicken Loans, we close many of our home loans in 30 days or less. But if you work with someone other than Quicken Loans, you might be dealing with a lender that takes a lot longer. Here's an analogy. I ordered a pizza 4 hours ago that should have arrived in 30 minutes or less. Think of my cold, unappetizing pizza as a mortgage from a lender that doesn't care about closing loans quickly.
Here's your pizza, dude.
You should have been here a lot sooner.
Who do you think I am? Quicken Loans?
The choice is clear. A mortgage from a lender that takes forever to close your loan, or a piping hot mortgage from Quicken Loans that arrives fresh at your door in as quick as 30 days or less. One more way Quicken Loans is engineered to amaze. The rate today on a 30-year fixed mortgage is an incredible 3.99%. APR 4.22%. Call Quicken Loans today at 800-QUICKEN. That's 800-QUICKEN, or go to QuickenLoans.com.
Call us for cost information. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. Nationwide licensing number 3030.
$10,000! $10,000! $10,000! For a limited time, up to $10,000 discount on a new 2013 Silverado Z71 Extended Cab and Z71 Crew Cab Chevy truck. C&O Motors, West Virginia's largest automobile dealership, is giving you the opportunity to save up to $10,000! $10,000! $10,000! Only at C&O Motors, West Virginia's largest car and truck dealership. See dealer for details. details.
Realtors have expertise in land development and management, retail, industrial, office, and investment properties. They have the experience, knowledge, and savvy to help you achieve your business and investment real estate goals. Realtors also have the power of the National Association of Realtors behind them, working with legislators and regulators to support the key role commercial real estate plays in our national economy. Ask for a professional who understands your commercial business. Ask for a Realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Rush Limbaugh informing America.
There are more and more people out there who are becoming high information voters, who are starting to figure something out, and they're not happy with what's going on. I think what it means is that there is a golden opportunity for somebody on the Republican side to pick up and score big with just a little leadership. People are hungering for it.
Rush Limbaugh, weekdays from noon to 3 on 58 WCHS.
Well, good Friday morning again. It is Ask the Expert. Dr. Jeannie K. Bailey, Sleep and TMJ Treatment Center, 757-7428. And her special guest, Dr. Michael Beasley from the Eye and Ear Clinic Physicians Incorporated. And we do have a call. It is 304-345-5858. We'll go to Ann. Good morning, Ann from Danville. How are you this morning?
Good morning. How is everybody?
Very good. It's Friday. We're doing pretty well.
Hey, you can't beat Friday. What you all were talking about today hits very close to home for me. My husband has Hashimoto's thyroid. It's an autoimmune thyroid disease, and he has horrible sleep disturbance, and he is treated for it, and he goes in to get his blood work regularly, and they say that they have him on the right amount of thyroid hormone, but he rarely gets a night's sleep. And I was wanting to talk to Dr. Bailey and Dr. Beasley about, what options are there if he's treated and he's still not sleeping? And he's had a sleep study which ruled out apnea. So I'm not sure, he's not sure where to go from this point, and we aren't either.
Who would like to take? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Beasley.
I guess there's a couple things there. You're right with Hashimoto's thyroiditis or any thyroiditis. You have a daily fluctuation of your thyroid hormone, so you can regulate it, make it the labs appear adequate. Sometimes you do have to play around with the medicine and make sure you have the correct dosing. But then you also have to not just assume you did the right thing, having a sleep study. Make sure that it's not obstructive sleep apnea. But there's other culprits that could be, so you really do need to have an exhaustive investigation to see, is it lifestyle, is it another medicine, is it different behaviors that could be affected, and not just the thyroid. And then sometimes you just have to look a little bit more aggressive toward the thyroid if that's not working. But you certainly have to rule everything else out, and it looks like you started that process.
Right. He had the sleep study a while back, and he's tried sleep medicine. His doctor had prescribed him some medicine for sleep, but it's just not, even that doesn't seem to, it never has got him on a regular sleep rhythm. So he's, obviously, he suffers a lot with this. So that was something I was just really interested to see, where do we go from here?
And Ann, sometimes if one sleep study didn't work, we'll order a second sleep study just because you miss it in the first sleep study. So, how long ago did he have his sleep study?
It's been a year or two ago.
Well, if it's been a year or two, you may want to do another sleep study. And then there's a thing called sleep hygiene. There are specialists, and they review, your mattress, when you should go to bed, what you should be eating. There's all kinds of things that you can do to unwind and get ready for that bedtime to get a better quality of sleep. So I would recommend you go back to a sleep physician and say, maybe we should do another sleep study just to be sure, because sometimes you don't always catch what's going on. So that would be my recommendation, Ann.
All right. Well, gosh, I appreciate both of you all, and I appreciate you, Mike.
All right, thank you, Ann, and have a great, great weekend, and we wish your husband sweet sleep this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, 304-345-5858. Well, the first call really opened the door. It seemed like someone really on the right path, starting on the right things, but as you were saying, Dr. Bailey, if your last study didn't show anything, it's a year or two ago, you know what? Doesn't mean you shouldn't try again.
correct. And, there's so many other things that are involved. There's the hormone issue, which we use endocrinologists, to make sure we have that right balance. And it's important to tweak that periodically. You just can't get on the same hormones. Like he has placed me on hormones now, but I have to go have blood work to make sure that it's exactly keeping me where I should be. So that's another important. You have to follow through on many different facets over time.
Dr. Beasley, it seems, again, on the right path, but boy, it's just it's a little heartbreaking when they have seemingly done all the right things, taken the medicines, they seem to be very diligent about it, but still not sleeping. I mean, listen, I suffer some of that myself, certainly not to that degree, and it is kind of frustrating. It is frustrating, and it's as we were talking about during the break, because it's easy to look at the laboratories and the obstruction and different facets and say, well, that's it. But as Dr. Bailey was talking and as we spoke on the break, it's everything. You have to look at the big picture of your life, your diet, your sleep patterns, or your actual daily pattern of life. There's so many things. Your stress is at work. How are you handling your stress? So sleep disturbances, as Dr. Bailey is a specialist and will tell you, you need an exhaustive approach to look at it, and probably not just looking for one medicine to fix it. I'm here with Dr. Jeannie K. Bailey, Sleep and TMJ Treatment Center. Special guest, Dr. Michael Beasley from the Eye and Ear Clinic Physicians Incorporated. And our number here is 304-345-5858. A subject that I know you guys wanted to talk about, and I think this is going to hit home with people. What about children who snore? I mean, we talk about adults a lot, but children who snore, should that be a concern, Dr. Beasley? Snoring by itself is not a concern. Certainly if it's snoring loud enough to wake you up across the house, that's probably a bad sign. But what we really look for is how the quality of their sleep when they're snoring. Are they having apnea, holding their breath? Are they changing positions and taking the pauses? The apnea in children is a big concern. And luckily, much easier to treat than in adults. And how so? Why are children much easier to treat? Greater than 90% of kids with apnea have large tonsils or adenoids. So it's a very easy surgical correction. Whereas in adults, if you just take the tonsils out, you're very unlikely to resolve that apnea. 304-345-5858 on Ask the Expert on WCHS. Dr. Bailey, give us a look at, inside the child's bedroom. What should you be looking for? If it's just, like Dr. Beasley was saying, average snoring, or sometimes that happens, but what should you kind of look for if you're going to observe your child to make this assessment, to say, you know what, I better bring them to the doctor? Well, in all due respect, snoring should never occur in children. If they do have enlarged tonsils or something going on, if it only lasts for a small amount of time, that 3-week episode where they have the allergies or where they have something like enlarged tonsils or a cold or whatever. But, after that, if your child is snoring past that 3-week time frame, that's when you really need to see what's going on, which you would then go to someone like Dr. Beasley to have it evaluated. But after 3 weeks of snoring, parents, your child should not snore. Now, looking around the bedroom, children should get that 9 hours of sleep if they're very young. And Dr. Beasley and I had a big discussion about this last night, because when I called him, he said he had his kids in bed by 8. And I was like, you were a good man. Man, good for you is right. But, make sure that there are no distractive factors in the bedroom. The computers, the iPads, the phones, everything needs to be shut off. The room should be dark. It should be nice and quiet. No distractive factors. Dr. Beasley, also, I think this might be important. I mean, and, pediatricians have a certain skill set. You certainly have a certain skill set. If this snoring is going on, should a parent kind of take the initiative or be proactive and call a specialist like you rather than just going to their pediatrician or maybe check first? And I'm not trying to pit one against the other, but, giving some guidelines to a parent. Yeah, it's, it depends on your relationship with your pediatrician. There's certainly pediatricians I deal with that are very knowledgeable about sleep, and
So that would be great. If someone's not getting improvement, talk with your pediatrician or make a referral to a specialist. And it tends to be, we all have our strengths as practitioners, and you certainly want to be at the right place. Whether it's one specialty or another, it's hard to say. Usually everything that's treated multidisciplinary and speaking like Dr. Beasley and I are now, that's what gets the patient the best.
304-345-5858 if you'd like to get your question answered by Dr. Beasley or Dr. Beasley on Ask the Expert on WCHS. You are certainly welcome to call. I've got to tell you, Dr. Beasley, I'm kind of understanding, and I think the picture is getting pretty clear to anybody that's listened to you any length of time. You think about these national stories. It's hard to watch a week's worth of news, just 1 week, and not hear something mentioned about the terrible battle we're having in America with sleep issues. I mean, and that kind of, it's almost like across the spectrum, and the related, health issues that derive from that. I don't think I've went a week without some story somewhere about sleep disorders or not enough sleep.
Well, the stats is $32.4 billion a year is spent on the sleep industry. Wow. And it grows yearly. In the last 20 years, we're at an 8.8% growth rate. We should have invested stock in this because, it is something that was kind of overlooked and missed in the medical profession, and now it's growing. And our lifestyle is dramatically changing. We don't get that good quality sleep that we used to, and that's part of the obesity problem going on. We have the iPhones and all the other distractive factors. So, our times are changing now from when they did when you and I were children growing up.
That's a great point. We talked about that a little bit too before the program. Dr. Beasley, so many distractions. I mean, we had a couple shows we got to watch in the evening, and that was it. I'm not going to say mine because then everyone will know how terribly ancient I am, but it was like Sea Hunt and Paladin. And, we got to watch a few shows at night. But now the multiple distractions with games and, the computers and just all of it. I mean, this has to start being a factor to children.
Absolutely. That's what I love hearing Dr. Beasley talk about. It is the big picture. We have all this lifestyle changes that aren't, we used to, at least when I was growing up, you left the door at 8 and you were not allowed back in until dinner was served. And then that was family time after dinner. And we've gone away from that. So we're getting less activity, we're getting less nutrition, and our kids are just playing games. I mean, they're just on those computer, electronic devices all day.
Well, I think I was at the start of that. I remember when we were allowed to get TV trays, if that's even thought about anymore, where we were allowed to eat on TV trays so we can watch our favorite show while we ate. And I look back at that now, that wasn't such a good move. It really wasn't. But that was kind of the beginning of those distractions and lifestyle changes. And as you always talk about, Dr. Beasley, you really have to take in so much when you're treating or looking or evaluating a patient.
Yes, and when Dr. Beasley and I were trying to get together last night to kind of talk before we came here, and he says, well, I can't talk now because I'm at a track. I'm at the track, coaching track. And I said, well, I can't talk now because I'm going to track to pick my son up. So then I had to run the child to a 4-H meeting. So we have a different kind of lifestyle in society now and it's great that we involve our children in so many things. But that sitting down at the dinner table, like when I grew up at 5 o'clock, was sacred. Everybody sat. No TV, we talked. Those days are changed. We do now run all over the place, and we eat fast food because that's what we have to do.
I want to bring up something that we were talking about, tonsils coming out. Now, when I was growing up, it wasn't whether or not you were going to get your tonsils out. It was what age you were going to do it. I mean, it was kind of automatic. You were going to get your tonsils out. That's it. It was like you didn't have any choice in the matter. Is that still the same right now, Dr. Beasley?
No, and it's certainly been a pendulum over the past several decades. I remember in 3rd grade I got my tonsils out because my twin brother was getting his out. I came along with my brother, and the guy said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm his age. He's my twin." "Well, you're going with him." So that was probably the wrong approach. but certainly we went several years with not taking tonsils out. It was you'd have to
so
have,
it went the other way then.
And now we're taking adults' tonsils out that should have had them taken out when they were a child. They've had infections the whole time, and it is a miserable experience as an adult. Whereas children, like they do for everything, bounce back much quicker, and it's a safer operation in children.
You know, it's so funny. I remember mine. I remember waking up going, well, you can't. But the sherbet came out. That was the good part. So, anyway, 304-345-5858. 304-345-5858. If you had maybe a comment or a question for Dr. Bailey or Dr. Beasley, they're certainly here to answer your questions. But yeah, I mean that pendulum has swung both ways, Dr. Bailey, and I don't know where it sits now, but it's again snoring in children, as you said, that's a concern.
And one of the main things that I want everybody to know, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, the number one sign is snoring for sleep apnea. So one of the number one red flags, now it doesn't mean you have it, but it is a warning sign. So that's why I say if your children's snoring over that 3-week time frame, then you need to have a look-see and see, is that the cause? And the same thing in adults. Snoring in adults is not normal. And they're finding now that when you snore, that vibration is really close to the carotid artery, and they think now that snoring is causing the atherosclerosis. So it's plugging up the arteries as a self-protective mechanism. So snoring is bad.
So you're saying that snoring can affect the carotid artery?
That's the big studies they have going on right now.
It's just amazing what I think what we're all learning because of science and its ability, I think, to evaluate patients and these maladies so much better now. Anyway, if you have a question, it's 304-345-5858, 304-345-5858. We'll go back to the phones. And good morning, John from Sissonville. How are you?
Hi, Mike. How are you, buddy?
What's going on, brother?
Well, I need to ask Dr. Beasley, maybe Dr. Bailey, too, a question. What about, is there a third tonsil on the base of your tongue or something?
There are, it's called lingual tonsils. We actually have tonsillar tissue is essentially lymphatic tissue. So we have tonsils and the likes of all the way around our oral pharynx or the back of our mouth. So you have what's called lingual tonsils, which coat the base of your tongue. We have what's called Waldeyer's ring, which is your tonsils, your lingual tonsils, and your adenoids, plus a bunch of other little mucosal lymphatics. So there certainly are.
I had my tonsils and adenoids out way back when Dr. Lim was my doctor, Dr. Romeo Lim.
Uh-huh.
And but I'm having a lot of throat issues, eating and infections. Everything's it feels like it's getting caught right in my throat every time I eat anything, especially like chips or anything crunchy.
Yeah, that's something that certainly you need to have evaluated and actually have a direct look with a scope to see what is kind of going on or what's affecting that.
Yeah, Dr. Todd Nichols is my doctor, but I haven't seen him in a long time because I've been real ill, but I'm getting a lot better now, so is it possible that could be causing the stuff to get stuck in my throat?
It can be that. It can be reflux. There's a lot of different etiologies, so I recommend you go see Dr. Nichols and have him perform a fiber optic evaluation of that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I didn't know for sure. I saw it on TV. That's why I'm asking you, because I don't believe what's on TV half the time.
Good for you.
Okay, well, Mike, I'll see you Monday night. And doctors, thank you so much for your answers and your time.
John, have a great weekend, brother.
Okay, you too, sir.
304-345-5858. That's how you get your question answered and get maybe a good recommendation. I'm here with Dr. Jeannie K. Bailey, Sleep and TMJ Treatment Center. Also, her guest, Dr. Michael Beasley from the Eye and Ear Clinic Physicians Incorporated. We'll be back in just a minute on WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
America's Anchorman and the voice of Charleston. A perfect combination. Rush Limbaugh, weekdays from noon to 3 on 58 WCHS. Mike Agnello is talking about what you're talking about on 58 Live.
Hey, this is Mike Agnello. Hey, we're not going to be back until Monday night, 7 o'clock for 58 Live, but stay in touch by Facebook. We're going to be watching the legislators and the news stay in touch, and we will see you Monday night.
58 Live with Mike Agnello, weeknights from 7 to 10 on 58 WCHS.
Attention, Power Baseball fans. The first day of single game ticket sales is Saturday, March 16th, starting at 10 a.m.
Get your tickets for opening day, July 4th, and all other West Virginia Power home games. We're also hosting a St. Patrick's Day party at the park from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
with free admission, food samples, and more.
Plus, when you purchase a single game ticket on Saturday, you get a free food sample at the party that night.
Call 344-BAT or go online to wvpower.com.
West Virginia Power Baseball. Memories live here.
Nestled in the Allegheny Highlands along U.S. Route 50 in north central West Virginia, Brookside Inn and Retreat Center is a unique presence in the town of Aurora. Its rustic elegance is enhanced by tasteful furnishings and a sweeping front porch, making it the perfect destination for weddings, reunions, and retreats. All accommodations include a full breakfast, and meals are often created with meats and produce from local farms. Just across from Brookside Inn is Cathedral State Park, a national landmark old-growth forest of virgin hemlock rhododendrons and mountain streams. The inn is also near Canaan Valley, Blackwater Falls, and the gateway to Monongahela National Forest. Beginning Monday, you can experience Brookside Inn at a discounted price when you log on to wvstaycations.com. Get a $100 gift certificate for only $50 to apply toward overnight accommodations and dinner for two at Brookside Inn. The sale starts Monday at wvstaycations.com. That's wvstaycations.com.
Realtors have expertise in land development and management, retail, industrial, office, and investment properties. They have the experience, knowledge, and savvy to help you achieve your business and investment real estate goals. Realtors also have the power of the National Association of Realtors behind them, working with legislators and regulators to support the key role commercial real estate plays in our national economy. Ask for a professional who understands your commercial business. Ask for a Realtor. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
It's a guy thing. Metro News Hotline with Dave Weekley.
On the next edition of Hotline, it's semifinal Friday at the State Boys High School Basketball Tournament in Charleston. We've got all the scores, previews, plus post-game reaction. Also, former Mountaineer wide receiver Stedman Bailey is scheduled to be in studio with us to discuss his dream of playing in the National Football League.
Metro News Hotline with Dave Weekley. Weekday afternoons from 3 till 6 on the Voice of Charleston, 58 WCHS.
Hey, good Friday morning. It is Mike Agnello on Ask the Expert. No, I am not the expert on anything, I don't believe. But we do have somebody that knows pretty good stuff about sleep disorder, TMJ, Dr. Jeannie K. Bailey, and also Dr. Beasley. You know, I mean, sleep disorders can really affect lifestyles, and maybe people don't even understand that they have a sleep disorder. But falling asleep, I mean, car accidents, all these things are really a part of sleep disorder.
And the National Transportation Committee in the nation is looking at the severity of truck drivers, because there is such a high percentage of truck drivers that have sleep apnea. It's incredible, over 40%.
Oh, my goodness.
So it's, you know, this is something we were talking about is it's evolving with time. You know, 1 out of every 3 truck drivers passing you on the highway right now, if you're out there driving, they have obstructive sleep apnea.
And that's incredible, because if you're not getting good sleep and you're behind that wheel, and, you know, it's the kind of job, and I used to drive cross country on a bus, a big over-the-road coach. And I can tell you, it can be a little hypnotizing at times. You're a little bored, you're a little tired, especially driving at night. You know, it's almost, it gets hypnotic almost. And you got to watch yourself, because, and I can't imagine, I was a lot younger then, I was able to get pretty good sleep. But as I've aged, I couldn't imagine doing that job today with the sleep patterns I have. And I think you just gave me a very scary thought. 1 out of 3 truck drivers. So is there any move for treatment or for them to be evaluated? I mean, are they just recognizing this?
Well, they're recognizing it. And, you know, they have to keep a log So before, truck drivers had no restrictions on you can drive so many hours unrestricted, but now legally they have to keep a log and they have to get sleep in between. So that was a really good push on the government's part to make sure that they were getting good quality sleep. But many big truck associations are having their individuals test to make sure to protect themselves legally.
Well, for theirself, their driver, their equipment, for others. I mean, let's be honest. A truck gets in an accident and hurts somebody else. Well, naturally, someone's going to sue. Dr. Beasley, have you had an occasion to treat any truck drivers?
Oh, absolutely. And not only truck drivers, but the entire transportation. I know that the riverboat or barge captains are very heavily regulated the same, and they have a high incidence. It's those jobs where you're sedentary, you're sitting there for hours at a time. You don't have good access to good food. I mean, it would be a hard job to keep your health and your sleep health available. So sometimes we can treat them surgically. That's what the bulk of my sleep patients are for surgical evaluation. But unfortunately, most of the problems that Dr. Bailey's discussing probably are outside of my area of correction and more need either appliances for sleep or, overall change in health.
304-345-5858. If you have a question for Dr. Bailey or Dr. Beasley, if I could follow up on the statement you made. You said they don't have access to good food. How important is, when you said good food, open that up a little bit for us.
Well, it's just like Dr. Bailey was talking about earlier. We eat fast food because you're on the road. You're on the road and you're busy, and there's that famous McDonald's documentary a couple of years ago. I forget what it was called, but it kind of pointed out how unhealthy fast food is. So now they're at least taking steps, putting your calories on the menu, things like that, to try to make it a little easier. But it's expensive and it's time consuming to eat well, and we forget about that.
And not only that, we're on a time crunch.
Mm-hmm.
You had to run when you went to the track meet, so you grab your child something. The average time you should chew one bite of food is about 22 to 25 times per bite.
Oh, my goodness.
So, we're so fast in today's society, we wolf down what we get and don't give it the attention we need in chewing.
Yeah, I think it takes me 3 minutes to eat a full dinner.
I know.
That's bad.
I know. When you said that, talk about being an underachiever right now. I am a woefully underachieving right now when it comes to chewing. I'll have to remember that. It's horrible, but I've always been a fast eater. When I was real young, because in my day, as they say, my goal was to get out of the house.
Right.
Go outside and play. That was my goal in life. So when I came in, you had to eat.
Mm-hmm.
It was boom, boom, boom. Can I go outside now? So I can get outside again, be with my friends, hang out.
Right.
And that, I guess, those old habits die hard. How many times? 22 to 23?
22 to 25 times per bite.
Dr. Bailey, I don't like you anymore. 304-345-5858. 304-345-5858. Boy, I tell you what, snoring and sleep disorders and TMJ and, and this thyroid. There's the sneaky one, not so easily assessed.
Correct.
Can that even maybe escape maybe a sleep clinic?
Oh, absolutely. Especially like we were talking about Dr. Bailey's earlier, if you're getting a substernal goiter hiding behind your clavicle and your chest, pushing your trachea
now wait a minute.
aside.
Now wait now. You got to help me on this one.
Sorry.
This pressure in the throat?
So,
everything?
if that thyroid's sneaking down into your chest and not growing outward, then it's not going to be easily evaluated. And Dr. Bailey's was found on an MRI. It's hard sometimes to feel these with just physical examination.
So you can even go to a good clinic, a sleep clinic, and it can kind of sneak by. And boy, now you have to get specific in your evaluation, or you're not going to come up with good results.
And that's like what we were talking about earlier. It's not just a one sleep study. And that's your evaluation.
And the other thing I always like to point out on every single show, I'm a general dentist with special interest in TMJ and sleep. But I want everyone to know, when you go to your dentist for your regular checkup, every single dentist does what I do. They do a very thorough exam, and they palpate the thyroid. And if they find anything unusual, it's their job to refer it to the proper person, such as Dr. Beasley, to have this evaluated. But every single dentist should be doing a very thorough oral exam, oral cancer screening, and filling that thyroid. You know, and you go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned every 6 months, so I check my patients extremely well.
304-345-5858. That's 345-5858. If you like to get your question answered, or maybe just maybe you think you're having an issue and you just want to kind of air it out and make sure you're on the right track, it'd be a good time to call, and you can talk to Dr. Bailey or Dr. Beasley. Dr. Beasley, just maybe as a maybe no scientific study, but just in your own private practice, where are we at with these thyroid conditions? On the rise? Kind of the same? I mean, where are we at?
Thyroid malignancy is certainly on the rise. Thyroid dysfunction is on the rise. And we don't know exactly why. We're talking about the lifestyle issues. We're talking about, detections better now. We have more accurate ultrasounds. We have more accurate labs. But certainly it is on the rise.
Well, and I guess what we're hearing and what people should be responding to today, if you're having some of these maladies, maybe that's an area you should go for. I mean, to look at that, because, I've talked to many, many people that have had thyroid issues, and maybe it's better detection. I don't know, but it does seem, that's why I asked the question, it does seem like it's just on the rise.
Yeah, it's certainly on the rise.
And in my case, I'm not exactly sure that people realize, for 30 years I ground out silver fillings, which is 50% mercury, which creates a vapor. And the fourth portion of your body that absorbs toxins is the thyroid. So I always wondered, out of curiosity, was all of this metal coming up being absorbed by my thyroid because I'm 13 inches away from the patient?
Yeah. It's certainly something that we don't know exactly. With toxins, it's a hard area to prove and look in, and we've neglected it for years. So, you're right.
Well, I know there's been lots of conversation about that, kind of two camps on that, but I don't know. I'm a simple guy. If when I just think of mercury, it's always in a negative light. I mean, mercury poisoning or mercury. I mean, mercury industrially used, proven to be, harmful to people that worked around it. So I don't know yet. I still have fillings in my mouth, but I don't know. I just look at it simply like, why not err on the side of caution? 304-345-5858. I'll tell you what, we're getting close to a break. We'll go ahead and take that now, and we'll be back with Dr. Jeannie K. Bailey, Dr. Michael Beasley on Ask the Expert on WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
Your around-the-clock source for breaking news on the air and online at 58WCHS.com. The voice of Charleston is 58WCHS.
Morning, Mr. Roccaccini.
Morning.
I know. 2 chicks on a raft, cup of joe, all arms and legs, make it moo.
I want soft-boiled eggs today.
Hold the chicks, drown the kids.
Wait. I'll have...
What? You ordered the same thing every day for 25 years.
I didn't know there was a choice.
Well, we've had the same menu every day for 25 years.
I worked the same dead-end job for 25 years, too.
Uh-huh.
I heard a commercial from CharlestonHelpWanted.com.
Uh-huh.
I logged on to CharlestonHelpWanted.com. Why not Win to Shop?
Uh-huh.
And they had hundreds of local job listings. I uploaded my resume for free and started getting interviews immediately.
You're rocking my world.
So I chose a new job. Life-changing. I had choices. It was so easy.
Can you make my life easier?
Forget the soft-boiled eggs.
Can the kids?
I'll have ham and eggs scrambled with onions.
Eternal twins, wrecked and crying.
Oh, with ketchup.
Make it hemorrhage.
Make them hemorrhage.
Back off, baby. That's my job.
Sorry. CharlestonHelpWanted.com. Long name, amazing results.
This is Ask the Experts on this Good Friday morning, heading into the weekend. 60 degrees tomorrow. Everything's okay. All is well. I'm here with Dr. GDK Bailey and Dr. Michael Beasley. Some final thoughts here, Dr. Beasley. We've got about, 4 minutes left or so. Maybe just a cautionary word to people that if they're having these things, maybe they should see someone. And what are those things?
Well, Dr. Bailey spoke exactly right. The first warning sign when you're talking about sleep disturbance is your energy level, how you're functioning through the day. But the number one warning sign for sleep apnea is snoring. So if your partner's kicked you out of bed, that's a bad sign. But much less than that, if you're snoring, there means there may not be apnea, but you're having some sort of obstruction.
27% of the population don't sleep together because of snoring.
27%, over a quarter of the nation that live together do not sleep together because of that one issue.
Yeah, and that's huge.
That's unbelievably huge.
Which, when I treat some of my patients, they say, "Oh, thank you, Dr. Bailey. I can go back to sleep with my bed partner." And that's huge. And I've had people even have tears in their eyes when they say that, and I can understand that is so important.
Well, I think it is one of the biggest parts of a relationship and intimacy. I mean, sleeping together, holding each other, whether that time together. Let's be honest, most of us live some pretty stressed lives. Who works 40 hours a week? Right. Someone please raise your hand. I don't know anybody. So we're all working all these extended hours. And so that time of intimacy, it is important. So, boy, 27%. You always kill me with these stats you come up with, Dr. Bailey. I mean, really, it just... I feel like everybody should right now go and make a phone call and get themselves tested, and give us a look at those first signs. What should they do? What's the first thing someone should do when they're feeling maybe I do have an issue?
Well, I need a thorough evaluation. And let me give you a couple examples of some of the things that I see. I have people come to me for pain all the time because I do treat TMJ dysfunction. And the last 2 men that came to me, they have a morning headache. Oh, they have pain, they have pain, they have pain. Well, pain is pain. But when I looked past the picture and sent them both for a sleep study because I suspected something, they were both severe obstructive sleep apnea. And I always tell my patient, pain is pain, and obstructive sleep apnea, it has comorbidities. The last show, a nurse called in and said, "Have I ever seen anybody die of, obstructive sleep apnea?" No, it's the comorbidity spin-offs from it. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. But obstructive sleep apnea is life-threatening. Pain is pain.
Well, that was I think one of the first shows we did together when I understood that better. That this is not just an inconvenience. This is not just a matter of having a little more energy. Dr. Beasley, this, in some ways your life is on the line here.
Oh, and just to, kind of the comorbidity you're talking about, with me being a surgeon, what I see is, morbidity and not mortality, but morbidity in the hospital after surgeries are 10 to 20% higher if you have sleep apnea. It makes everything's more dangerous.
My friend had his hip replaced. I went to visit him at the hospital this week, and when I walked in, he was having an apnea event. And the nurse went to wake him up, and I went, no, let me see how long. I mean, that was kind of cruel, but I said, let me see how long his apnea event. And he did not breathe for over 45 seconds, and she woke him up. But I wonder how long he would have gone if she didn't wake him up.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Dr. Bailey, thanks again for being here. It's a good show.
Oh, thank you so much. I always enjoy it.
Dr. Michael Beasley, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure to meet you. It's great.
And do you get along with your twin brothers? That's what I want to know.
I do now.
Have a great weekend. This is Mike Ignell, Ask the Expert. You know what's coming up. Hoppy Kercheval, Talk Line. After that, of course, Rush Limbaugh, and then Hotline with Dave Weekley. And then, guess what? High school basketball tournaments. It's getting crunch time. This is the kind of semifinals. And tomorrow, of course, the championship. Always a great time at the Civic Center. I think West Virginia at its best at these tournaments. All the towns that come in rooting for your home team. It doesn't get much better than this. Hey, go out and make a memory this weekend. They last forever, and you can use it whenever you need it. Mike Ignello on WCHS, the voice of Charleston.
10 o'clock. WCHS AM, Charleston, a West Virginia Radio Corporation station. Your award